Hello, everybody. I'll wait a few minutes for some viewers to come on. And if you are in the live chat on the YouTube, if you would just let me know if you can hear me, I would appreciate it. So just comment in there if you can hear me, and then we'll get started. Okay, good. I'm seeing some yeses that you can hear me. Wonderful. As I wait just another minute for people to jump on, feel free to use that live chat feature as a way to help each other. If I'm answering questions and, for example, you have an additional question off of what I answer, feel free to ask each other and help each other in that, and that would be awesome. Okay? So here we go. Let's get rocking and rolling. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going right off of the document that I share with you all and just go through format questions, content questions, and hopefully answer anything that you have. All right, here we go. Let's get this done. So first things that I've been asked about the midterm specifically are a lot of format questions, which I can totally understand where you guys are coming from, wanting to know the format with it being your first high school Spanish exam. So let's go through and talk about these first. The first question says, can you review the task completion on the writing rubric and explain the difference between what would be a 4 and what would be a 5? And the answer is for sure. I'm going to screen share with you right now so you guys can see exactly what I am looking at. All right. So hopefully you can see right now what I am seeing, which is the midterm performance rubric. So it was a great question in terms of what would be a 4 and a difference between a 4 and a 5 in this category right here. If you guys are looking where it says task completion, in my eyes, the difference between a 4 and a 5, the way that I'm basing this off of is if you have 4s in both of these in vocabulary use and in fluency, that would be a 4 to me in task completion. If you have 5s in both of the fluency and vocab, that would be a 5 in task completion. I think the difference, maybe let's say you go past 100 words, but you have just the variety, just the vocab from in the curriculum, say you have 1 4 and 1 5, then what I would do is I would say, have I received a draft from that person? Did they significantly prepare for that? So those of you that have sent me drafts, that may come into play in terms of your preparation that has gone into this midterm. So I guess in short, I would say if you get 2 4s in the fluency and vocab category, that would be a 4 in task completion for me. If you get a 5 in both of fluency and vocab use, that would be a 5 in task completion. The difference between that is if you get maybe 1 4 and 1 5 in these two categories, I would then at that point decide, okay, how much work had you put in since then? Had you been talking to me in class? Had you sent me a rough draft? And if so, then that would become the deciding factor between a 4 and a 5. So hopefully that's helpful to you in terms of deciding, or in terms of understanding the difference there. All right, so let me bring you back to me. All right, here I am. Okay, so the next thing let's talk about is an A+ essay 100 words or 150 words? Let me take you back this through. As of last Thursday, it was 150 words. Now, if you want to get a 5 in that category, in the fluency category, you only need 100. You need 100 words or more, which all of you can do, no problem. Some of you were sending me drafts of upwards of 170 words. So as long as you have at least 100 words, you will get a 5 in that category. So take a look at that rubric, and that'll explain it a little bit more in depth. But that change was just made on Friday. So if that's news to you, it was because it was a very recent change. All right, do you need to spell out numbers? No, you can write the digits. That's good news too, I know for a lot of you. Is the writing section timed? No, you will get all class on Tuesday to complete the writing portion. Last year, most students got done probably within a half hour. But again, it's in terms of if you spent time to draft and to kind of organize your ideas, you're going to get done a lot quicker than maybe somebody that's doing it for the first time on the fly. Okay, do you have a writing section for both the midterms and the finals? Yes, you do. Midterms and finals for Spanish 1A, as well as midterm and final for Spanish 1B. And the reason is because Spanish is a lot like math in terms of you have skills that continually build upon one another. So the writing that you're doing now will be nothing like the writing you're doing in December. You will be shocked at the difference in levels that you'll have between now and December in terms of your writing. If this is going okay, if I am explaining things and you guys are following me, can you reply? Can you give me something in the live chat real quick? Just want to make sure you're still with me. Okay, I'll just wait for a second to see if you guys are following me here. Awesome. Glad it's working, you guys. I've got 37 viewers on with me right now, so that's great. Hopefully you guys are comfortable at home in your jammies and have some popcorn to eat right now. So I'll continue on. The next is the letter portion written or online. It will be on paper, and you'll have a paper that has individual lines on it to let you know your word count. So you don't have to go in and physically count yourself. You will see as you write. If you have more than 5 unknown words on the essay part, do you get more points or could they make up for points? For the essay part, that is just, I'm going to pull this up real quick. I'm going to screen share with you guys again because the next question is about this as well. In terms of those extra words, that is only falling under this category. So if you have the 5 words, if you use them correctly, you will get a 5 in vocab use. Having anything more than 5 doesn't really affect that at all, because at that point, then I'm looking more at your accuracy and mechanics. So it doesn't necessarily get you more points back. Having like 15 new words, that's great if you want to push yourself in that way, but it's not required. All right. The other question was, if you miss those 5 words, does it affect your grade? In terms of the rubric, yes. If you only use vocab that we've learned in class, that would be a 4 on the rubric. If you want to get a 5 on the vocab use, that's where you want to use vocab that you have learned on your own. And I always recommend using nouns or adjectives. Verbs, if you find a verb, you typically have to conjugate that, and you guys haven't learned that yet. If you have an older sibling that's taken Spanish, they could probably teach that to you. But I would stick with nouns and adjectives as you're trying to add more words. But again, it would be a 4 if you did not include any of that extra. Okay, hopefully that clears up that part for you. All right, bringing you back to me. Okay, will E count as a word? Yes. Why? Using it as and absolutely counts as a word in your writing. Will you hand out the rubric on Schoology for the writing portion? For sure. You will have the rubric on a piece of paper next to you. That way, if you want to refer to that as you're writing, it will be there for you. You can't bring your own rubric in or your own notes in just because this should be done. This is not an outside notes type of activity. So you will have that on paper the day of. So don't worry about that. Do we have to spell everything right in the essay portion? If not, how much can we spell wrong? Okay, let's go back to the screen share. And I'll kind of talk you through this. And the good news about this, guys, is this is the same rubric that we'll probably use all year long. So once you get familiar with it now, you'll be familiar with it for good. So in terms of spelling, that is going to fall under the mechanics category. Okay, so to get a 5, which is the highest score you can get in the mechanics category, your work has to be nearly free of errors, nearly free of spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. Meaning if you misspell one word, you can still get a 5 for that. That's one word. That's not your entire knowledge of the Spanish language. Now, if you start to get into multiple misspellings, that's where you would move down to a 4 in my eyes. So if you misspell one word, not a big deal. If you misspell more than one, that's when you're going to start to move down into a different category in terms of scoring. Okay, let me make sure. Let me see if there's other questions there. Let's see. Okay, so I think I covered that. So bring you back to me. All right. So the next question I have is, can we use words from last year that we've not learned yet? If they were in last year's curriculum, those aren't new words. We're talking about you guys expanding on what you know, not reviewing what you learned last year, but really going out there and saying, what can I learn that's new? So anything that you learned in 7th grade is a no-go. How to use punctuation marks in your essay. In terms of this, what you're going to want to do is periods. There's only one period in the Spanish language, just like there is in English. Commas, you use the exact same way that you use in English. The only difference is exclamation points and question marks. You have to include at the beginning of the sentence or question and at the end. Meaning, let me share this with you real quick, and I'll show you exactly what I am talking about. If I can get my screen share up. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. For example, if I am saying, ¿Cómo te llamas? I have to make sure that I have that question mark at the beginning and at the end. Or say I want to say like, how awesome. Que chévere. So those always have to go at the beginning and at the end if you're asking a question or making an exclamation. So in terms of punctuation, that's exactly how it has to be. Okay, so at the beginning and at the end. All right, hello. Let's see, and do numbers count as words? Yeah, if you want to spell out your numbers, those can absolutely count as words. I know a few people have wanted to do it in terms of word count. Feel free to spell out your numbers if you want to do that. How do you get the upside down exclamation points and question marks? Since you're going to be writing them on paper, you don't have to worry about that yet. When we start to write more on the computer throughout the semester, I will take time and show you guys how to get those upside down question marks and exclamation points. Or if you want to put this question into the live feed on right next to the video and have a classmate answer it for you, you're more than welcome to do that too. And do punctuation marks count as a word line? No, punctuation marks will go right next to the word that you're talking about. They won't take up a separate line, for example, for a word count. So good questions. All right, now let's talk about the listening portion. I know this is something you all are worried about, so I want to make sure that I get your questions answered to kind of clear that up for you. So tips for the listening portion. What I would always tell you to do is, one, you guys know what I'm going to say. Always read the questions before we start. You have to make sure that you have a clear vision of what you're listening for. Same thing if you were to go up to somebody and say, hey, what's your phone number? And they were to give you a bunch of information other than their phone number, you know in your mind what you asked for and what you're looking for. Another good tip is note-taking. If you look at something, for example, and it asks, what does he look like? Maybe instead of just answering that question on its own, maybe the minute you start hearing that person describe themselves, you note take off to the side. And in between the first and second time that we listen to it, you refer to those notes and answer your questions. Sometimes it moves so fast that you can't, just go to a bubble and read the answers that quickly. Having those notes off to the side will really be a good reference. How fast is it going to be? It will be very much on par to what we did on Friday. So it's not going to be, hola, ¿cómo te llamas? Me llamo Jorge. It's not going to be that fast, but it will be like, hola, ¿cómo te llamas? Me llamo Jorge. Soy de Ohio. Vivo con mi madre. So you're going to have a decent speed where you should be able to understand it, but the struggle will be to move from one question to another quickly. In terms of practicing, guys, I have to be very honest with you. Know your vocab. If you know that vocab, especially that physical and personality traits vocab, you should do fine, absolutely fine on the listening portion. It will be played twice, the listening portion, just like we practice in class. I always play it twice just to kind of keep you acquainted with that. And then it will be multiple choice. So that's the good news. Everything you guys have tomorrow, it's 50 questions, multiple choice. Okay, almost done with format questions. So on the midterm Quizlet, are we going to have all the words we haven't gone over in class? Okay, so if you are, and let me screen share with you really quick. Let's go here. Oh, and I'm gaining viewers. Hello, everybody. If you were just joining me, hopefully you guys are finding this helpful. So what people are asking about is this Quizlet set, this midterm study set. There are terms on there that you have never learned in class. Can you still ask me about them? Absolutely, you can still ask me about those on the test because we've never learned them before. The reason those are on the Quizlet study set are because if you are acquainted with those words earlier, you're going to move through the test at a better pace. You're not going to have to stop and ask questions as often because those words are going to be familiar to you. So are you expected to know all those? No, especially if they look new to you. But are they going to help you in terms of answering 50 questions within 53 minutes? Absolutely, that's going to help you out. All right, so let me make sure before I go back. Uh-oh, got all these tabs open. Let me bring you guys back to me. All right, so let's continue to look at these questions. So the next question I have is the words, yes, again, like the words like madre, if you don't know what that means, you're always welcome to ask me those. And you can also ask if it's a boy or a girl. Say, for example, you're going with the adjective agreement and it says, oh gosh, I got to think of a name that you could confuse as a boy and a girl. Juana. I don't know. It sounds like a girl name to me, but let's say Juana. And you're like, I don't know if that's a boy or a girl. You can absolutely ask me if that's a boy or a girl. And in terms of the midterm in comparison to the study guide, anything that you did on that optional study guide I gave to you guys is just going to help to refresh your memory in terms of content that could be covered on it. If you remember the multiple choice practice that we did in class, it is very similar to that practice midterm in terms of format. You do not need to know colors. Only if you want to use them as new words would you need to know colors. And you do not need to know languages or nationalities unless you would like to use those in your writing as well. I know those showed up in my optional practice. It's because last year we taught those formally, but this year we are teaching those formally. So I don't want you to stress about that. The other thing you don't have to stress about is no, there will not be country geography on there. Yay! Even though I know you guys know that, right? You remember all that? That will not be on the assessment. And the multiple choice part will be on paper. So it'll be, well, I guess paper and computer. You're going to have the physical exam so you can mark on it, so you can circle things, but you're going to be entering your answers onto Schoology. You'll be clicking in the multiple choice answers on Schoology. Do you need to know opposites? You should definitely be aware of the opposites for sure. That is not something, there's not like an opposite section on the test, but that is just something now. If I say simpático, you should be able to give me the opposite. If I say tímido, opposite. If I say feo, the opposite would be señora. And if I say débil, the opposite would be señora. So you do not need to know opposites, I guess, formally, but be aware of those. Okay. All right. I'm going to check back in with you guys real quick to make sure you're with me. Let me know. Okay. Let me know if you're with me real quick before I move on to going through content questions. And as I'm looking at this, yes, you will get your results right away on Schoology. You won't be able to see what you missed until next week due to students taking the assessment on different days at the middle school and the high school, but you will know your multiple choice score right away. Awesome. Thank you guys in the live chat for helping me out, letting me know that you're with me. I really appreciate that. Okay. Awesome. All right. Now, here we go. Let's start to get into the content questions. The good news is that you guys had more, oh gosh, you had more test format questions than you did content. So that means you were feeling really good about the content, which makes me really happy. Okay, so the first question I'm seeing is, can you review time? Absolutely, I can review time. So let me share this screen with you and we'll kind of talk through that real quick. All right, so here we go. First off, kind of talk out loud with me. If your parents think you're crazy for talking out loud with me, just say you're reviewing for Spanish for tomorrow. So when you talk about time in Spanish, there are two ways to talk about the hour. Do you remember what you say for 1 o'clock? It is es la. And remember, when you talk about 1 o'clock, it's una. Es la una. Okay? For every other hour of the day, hours 2 through 12, you are going to use, do you remember? Son las. So it'd be son las dos. I'm spelling dos with a Z. Son las tres. Son las seis. Any hour other than 1 o'clock is going to be son las. Okay? Now, if you have a time, for example, that's like 1:10, you would say, think about this on your own, see if you can get it. Es la 1:10. All right? So es la 1:10, 1:10. Now, what about if it's 2:10? How's that going to look different? It would be son las 2:10. So again, es la versus son las is kind of what you're doing here. Okay? Now, do you remember when we hit, let's say 3:15? You can say 15, remember, but there's a special word you can say. Son las, got all these subscribers, son las 3:00. Do you remember the word for quarter after? You can say 15 still, but cuarto. Son las 3:15. Okay. Now let's go to 4:30. Yes, you can still say 30, but there's a different word for half past. Do you remember what it is? Son las 4:30. So remember, media is going to be your half past. Now, if we add on, now let's just do one more. Let's do 7:50, right? So that would be son las 7:50. Now, if I go through and I add on to these AM, PM, and PM. Do you remember what your AM and PM words are? Remember, it starts with de. So for AM, de la mañana. For afternoon, de la tarde. And for evening, de la noche. So those are your morning, afternoon, and evening. Now, what about if I have 4 o'clock on the dot? Like it's no extra minutes, it's 4 o'clock on the dot. Do you remember how to say on the dot? Son las 4 en punto. Son las 4 en punto. 4 o'clock on the dot. Now, the last thing I want to review with you guys is noon and midnight, those words. Okay? So remember, for noon, do you guys remember middle of the day is how it's set up? Es mediodía and es medianoche. So it's middle of the day, it's middle of the night, just to kind of go back and review those. So hopefully that refreshed it in your mind in terms of what time was. I know that was about a month ago, and hopefully you feel better about that. And feel free when the live feed is done recording. If you want to go rewind and watch that again, you're more than welcome to. Okay? Bring you back to me now. So, ¿cómo va? Meaning and answers. Okay. ¿Cómo va? Is how's it going? So if I ask you ¿cómo va? It would be like bien, mal, así, así, good, bad, stuff like that. Okay. You don't have to know like the difference between, we're not going to ask you the definition of what is qué onda, what is qué pasa, what is qué tal, but you do want to make sure you know how to answer those. If I ask you qué pasa, you would answer. Or if I ask you qué onda, you would answer. So things like that. So you do want to know how to answer those things. You don't necessarily have to know their exact definitions. I hope that helps. All the yamas and yamases and all those things. Okay. That is actually a great question, and something that even though it was learned in 7th grade and in 8th grade, that I totally agree can be very confusing. So here we go. So you guys know that verb chart you guys learned? For ser, there's a verb chart for everything. You know this word that was on your VQ list, llamarse, to call oneself? This is where all of those come from. Llamarse conjugated down into a chart. So this is how it will always line up. it's me llamo, te llamas, se llama, right? Kind of like eres ends in an S, the to form. Me llamo, te llamas, se llama. If you're wondering how you would say we call ourselves, nos llamamos. They call themselves, os llamáis. And some of you were writing in your essays, like you wanted to say my brothers and my siblings' names, it would be se llaman for them. So this, again, is just another part of a chart. It's this verb, llamarse, conjugated down. So these can never be with anything else. It's got to be me llamo, has to be te llamas, and has to be se llama. All right? Hopefully that's another good refresher for you as you go forward. Okay. Unit 1 questions and answers. What TAMA 1 stuff are we going to have? I would be prepared for anything from TAMA 1 and TAMA 2. I can't exactly tell you what you have to know, just because that's essentially telling you exactly what's on the test, but anything from TAMA 1 or TAMA 2 is fair game, with the exception of the geography. You do not have to worry about country locations. Somebody asked, do you have to write el pelo en los ojos when you're talking about hair and eye color, or can you just write pelo en ojos? That is a wonderful question. So let me bring you back into this doc with me so I can show you kind of the difference between the two, which actually there's really not any. You could say, yo tengo los ojos verdes, and yo tengo ojos verdes, and it's the exact same thing. Doesn't matter if you put the los in there or not. Same thing with yo tengo el pelo rubio, and yo tengo, oops, sorry, that yo is a yo, it's a strong yo. Yo tengo pelo rubio. That is same thing. You can have the L, you can have the los, you can love it or leave it. Either way is fine with me. And either way would be fine for a native Spanish speaker as well. Okay, let's see. How do you know if a Spanish noun is masculine or feminine? Oh, goodness. This is actually what we're getting into on Wednesday and Thursday in class this week. Right now, unless it's obvious, like if it ends in an O, it's masculine, or if it ends in an A, it's feminine, I'm not going to count you off for that because that's something we haven't talked about yet. So I don't necessarily expect you to know that. The one that a lot of you are using in your drafts is clase, and clase is la clase. It's always la clase no matter what. So when you're describing it, it's la clase es aburrida, la clase es divertida. Make sure you always keep that feminine. Okay. Estoy versus soy. Okay, these are really good questions, you guys. You're getting into some good stuff here. So I'm going to bring you back and forth. Okay, to the doc again. So, yo soy inteligente versus yo estoy cansada. Okay, this is like Unit 5 stuff, but I'm going to throw it your way right now anyways. Remember I had you guys learn this, doctor? Ser, whenever you use a form of ser, like soy, ser is permanent. Okay, it means you can't change it. If you use ser in a sentence, it means that situation is permanent. How you describe things, that description is permanent. Your occupation is permanent. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it's not something that can typically quickly change. Characteristics are permanent. Time is not something you can change. Even though time changes, it cannot. Origin, where you were born, is permanent. And your relationship, you cannot change that somebody's your sister. So doctor, ser is permanent. Estar is, which you guys just saw this on your VQ, is temporary. So when I say estoy cansada, I am just temporarily tired. I'm not always tired. I'm just temporarily. So when you say soy, you have to make sure whatever you're saying with it is something that is permanent. If you say estoy, you have to make sure whatever you're saying with it is temporary. And again, that is getting into really upper level. That's kind of January material we're talking about. But I wanted to make sure I answer that question because it's a good question. And I do feel like a lot of you are ready for that in terms of understanding that. Okay, you're with me. You've survived a half an hour with me, and we keep gaining viewers, which is awesome. I hope this is being helpful for you guys. All right, so moving forward, if my doc, I think I'm I'm slowing down my computer because I'm flipping between windows, pulling up docs right and left. If this doc, let me exit out of a window and see if it makes it move faster. Oh, there we go. Okay. Will we have to worry about removing accents and plural of words? No, you do not need to worry about removing accents. You're good. That is not a big concern in terms of if you know a word adds an accent when it becomes plural or goes away. Don't worry about it. Ser and subject pronouns. Okay, so you guys are going to enjoy this because I'm going to sing this live stream over the internet. So here we go. Ready? Let's do subject pronouns first. Let's review the song. Yes, here we go. Yo means I and tu means you. El and ella, he and she. Usted means you more formally. Nosotros and nosotras both mean we. Vosotros, y'all used in Spain. Ellos and ellas both mean they. Ustedes, you all the formal way. So let's start again at yo, 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 yo. All right. Oh my goodness. Now, the one thing I did want to review with you guys, aside from that, oh my goodness, I just did that on YouTube, is let's say you have, for example, Enrique y yo, Jorge y tú, and Mariana y Tito. All right. So if I have Enrique y yo, what does that become? Okay, think about it with me. It would become nosotros. Whenever you have y yo, that is your indicator that's going to be nosotros. All right? If I have Jorge y tú, Jorge and you are my friends. You all are my friends. What are the two things that could be? That could be either, vosotros, or ustedes. Whenever you have and you, it becomes you all. Okay, because you have one you and you're adding somebody to it, it would be you all. Now I'm talking about Mariana and Tito. Mariana and Tito are friends. Who's friends? They are friends. This would be ellos. You're not going to have to worry about talking to, talking about, things like that. Pretty much from here on out, you're talking about them for the most part. Just be aware of when you have Jorge y tú, you're always talking to them, okay? That you and add somebody else, it would become you all. Now, somebody else asked on the doc, they said, can you go over ser? So let's hit this chart real quick, right? Let's think of patty cake in our mind. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son, okay? So, if I were to have Enrique y yo make nosotros, what form of ser would then match up with Enrique y yo? It would be somos, right? Now, if I have Jorge y tú, think about what form of ser would now match up with vosotros and ustedes. You could either put sois or son. And then last one, Mariana and Tito makes ellos. You always have to make sure you do this step first. You've got to figure out what that makes before you can jump into using the chart. Mariana and Tito makes ellos. And think about where ellos is in your chart down here. That would be son. Never jump to a conclusion. Maybe yo, because yo soy is something you guys are used to. But otherwise, really make sure that you guys go through this step first, because you can't. It literally goes in order. This is a multi-step equation that you guys are doing in the Spanish language in order to figure out those forms of ser. Okay? All right. Let's bring it back together. We are almost there, guys. In terms of asking and answering about a nationality, yes, I can talk about that. That's nothing that you have to do, but that is something that I'm more than happy if you guys want to include it, that I can talk about. So to ask, let me bring up the screen share again. So to ask about somebody's nationality, you would ask, here's the question, ¿Cuál es tu nacionalidad? That is the question. ¿Cuál es tu cumpleaños? ¿Cuál es tu teléfono? ¿Cuál es tu nacionalidad? And just in terms of what you are, that's a word that you could look up and could be a new word for you. Whether it's Indian, Chinese, Vietnamese, trying to think of other things, Russian. I'm trying to think of all the different nationalities you guys are. Oh goodness gracious, I know there's more than that. Mexican, Venezuelan, any of that stuff. Feel free to include, guys. But here's the question that you would ask in order to get there. Okay. All right. So here we go. Let's see. How would you, thank you, somebody answer this. How would you say the plural of joven? It would be jóvenes. You just add an ES to it, just like you would any other word that ends in an ES. If I study everything for about 30 minutes a day, will I do good on the test? It honestly matters how you study. If you are going through Quizlet and, for example, the flashcards and are starring the ones that you are not getting immediately, yes, that will come to you as you kind of narrow down that set. That is definitely going to help you for sure. If you've utilized all the resources, let me show you guys. Let's take a look at the Schoology page real quick in terms of resources. Oh gosh, my screen share button keeps hiding from me. I keep going to click on it and it runs away. So here we go. So looking at the Schoology page under the midterm, remember, I gave you that optional study guide on Friday. If you did that, definitely check that answer key. The at-home Kahoot challenge will close at 10 o'clock tonight. Those are perfect examples of potential questions or format of questions you could get on the assessment. Going over this Quizlet set, familiarizing yourself with that. And then here, this could be very valuable for a lot of you. Those of you that are still struggling with serum pronouns, for example, or those of you that are in my plural club that have trouble making things plural or feminine, these links are awesome. These are the ones that, out of all the ones that are on the internet, the ones that I found that were the best. So if you're still struggling with any of this, guys, I would definitely go through it, especially this adjective agreement one. I really like it. This is one I'm thinking of. I really like this because it makes your eye go where it needs to. It kind of trains your eye as far as where to look in a sentence. I'm pretty sure this is the one that I want to show you guys. But I was actually having fun doing it the other night. And I've been taking Spanish for, gosh, I don't know how many years. But this is making you go through and it gives you the sentence. And, oh gosh, encantadora. And it makes you go through and make sure you do it right, which is, I think, a really cool thing. So, feos. Again, training your eye. So I think in terms of when you ask if you study every day, it's in terms of, are you studying the same way or are you taking advantage of the different ways you have to study? Because recognition is one thing, production is a totally different thing. You have to think about that in terms of reading. You know, taking it in is one thing versus writing it is another thing. So they're different skills. So make sure to always have a good variety in terms of your studying. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, if you send me a copy of your draft and don't know how to type accents, yes, you're still fine. I will still look through it for you. I understand that. There are no retakes on midterms and finals in Spanish, the same way at the high school. This is one of the few assessments that you cannot get a retake on, but this is a summative assessment. So on everything that I've tested you on formatively up until this point, you should have had time to get those answers, you know, get those questions answered and perfect your skills before you head into the summative assessment. So no, there are not retakes on this. Nosotros, these are just some last minute questions. You do not have to worry about vosotros and ustedes. We're not going to try to trick you on that. It'll either be one or the other. We're not going to, I promise, we're not going to try to trick you guys on that. And the last question I have is, if we say nosotros somos versus somos, does it count as two different words? Just as you write it. If you write nosotros somos, that's two words. If you just write somos, that's one. So it's just in terms of how you write it, how I would go about grading that. Man, holy cannoli, we got that done in 40 minutes. That was awesome. I hope if this was your first live stream that you found this helpful, that those of you that were not able to tune in find this useful to go back and watch again, or watch for the first time once you get home from your activities or maybe after your family dinner is over. If you did watch this video, if you would take a minute and shoot me a quick email, just a really quick email, and just tell me what you thought about it, I would really appreciate it, because like I said, when you do review sessions and there's 80 people in a room, and it's hot and it's after school and you guys are tired, sometimes it's not the most conducive way to learn or really answer your questions. And in this way, when you're in an environment that's a little bit quieter, I guess unless you have a little brother or sister, it's a little bit quieter and you can kind of form your questions early and get those to me. Hopefully that's helpful. So if you guys would, I mean, truly, even if it's just a short, quick email says I like it, I would really appreciate your thoughts on this in terms of moving forward for the rest of the year. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Again, I will accept rubrics. Oh my gosh, see, it's getting late. I'm mixing up rubrics and writing samples. If you would like to send me a rough draft up until 9 p.m., I am happy to take that. And if you want to do the Kahoot challenge, that home Kahoot challenge, that will stay open until 10 p.m. tonight. Okay. Last thing I'll say, guys, is make sure you get to class right away tomorrow, because we're going to have to start right as soon as that bell rings. I'm not going to have time to answer questions in class tomorrow. So if there's anything else in your mind that's lingering out there that you want answered, feel free to send me a message tonight and I'll answer it for you. Okay? Ciao, ciao, babies. Have a good night.